Well, hello there, you Scrub Lords, and welcome back to another video on War Thunder. And today, we're going to be discussing the recent buffs to Challenger Mark II, now that it has officially been renamed to the vehicle that we all suspected it to be, and also some of the other changes that came in yesterday's update early in the morning. Well, at least for me, it was early in the morning. So, Gaijin yesterday released an article discussing the Challenger Mark II, and its recent, I guess you could say, controversy over the last couple of patches. I said in my previous video that I made on the Challenger that it was probably the worst tank of the batch of all of the tier 6s, and even in the patch that it was released in, I still stand by that statement. However, things have gotten significantly better as of yesterday. Now, my problems with Challenger are not so much that it is the tank that it is. My problems with Challenger stem from the fact that it is the tank that it is within the current meta. And the problem with War Thunder at top tier is that what you really want is speed and firepower. In addition, T64 also did get a buff, so rejoice for all you T64 drivers. In addition, the patch notes containing all of these changes will be down in the description below. So moving on. Alright, referring back to Challenger 1, let us discuss the trio of buffs that were applied to the vehicle. So first off, the most substantial one was that the turret armor weak points on the lower half of the turret are now gone. They are no longer weak points to the certain degree that they used to be, and those are now substantially more tough. Meaning that overall, the turret cheeks in general are far more resistant to incoming shells than they ever were before. The only rounds that can have any chance of really penetrating the Challenger 1's cheeks, or the lower half of the cheeks, at very close ranges, are JM33 and the OFL 120G1 from the Type 90 and AMX40 respectively. What this means is that Challenger Mark II can actually now do what it was always designed to do, meaning sit, hold down, and just tank shots on the front of the turret. So, that's quite nice. The Challenger Mark II can now actually do what it was designed to do in the first place. Meaning that anybody who's been playing the Chieftains up until this point, rejoice. You can actually research Challenger Mark II, and it might actually be worth your time. In addition, that's not all. The other two buffs were that L23A1 and L11A5, or not L11A5, that's the gun, L15A5, my bad, APDS, both got substantial buffs to the 60-degree penetration. Now, a lot of people are initially going to look at these stat cards and go, oh my god, they nerfed the shit out of the Challenger's penetration. They did and they didn't. What they did is that they did this for other vehicles as well, like the M60A1's APDS. They reduced the vertical armor penetration on the upgraded shells, but they massively increased the 60-degree penetration. Now, the 60-degree penetration for the AP FSDS will go up to about 460 millimeters. So, that's actually quite substantial. Now, I believe it's like over 60 degrees, the round will actually penetrate more than that. I believe at 72 degrees, it's set to penetrate about 490 millimeters of armor. So, it doesn't list that it's not going to list that in the stat card, but the steeper the angle, the better the performance that these AP FSDS rounds are going to have now. Which is a pretty substantial buff for the Challenger Mark II's L11A5 120mm gun, which honestly up until this point was pretty trash as a 120mm gun at this tier. Now moving on to the third buff, so not only do you have the turret armor buff, the massive penetration buff against sloped armor, which by the way now allows L23A1 to penetrate the upper front plate of a T64B out to like 2,000 meters without any issues. The third change was to the accuracy of the 120mm gun. On not just the Challenger Mark II, but all of the NATO 120mm guns got substantial accuracy buffs this last patch. meaning that they're not going to go flying all over the place. In addition, not only the 120mm guns, but the Russian 100mm D10s and LB1 guns also received substantial accuracy buffs. And finally, the L7 finally got a massive accuracy buff to it. So now those shells aren't going to fly every which way to Sunday. So now you can actually expect to hit what you're aiming at with the L7, and it doesn't feel like the rifling is completely worn out the barrel. So, hooray! We now have those trio? I can't even English today. We now have those trio of buffs applied to Challenger Mark II. In addition, they finally changed the name to Challenger Mark II, like I mentioned at the start of the video, which is what we suspected it would be all along, and that also clarifies some other issues in and of itself. Now, while they did buff the turret armor, they actually, from what I'm reading in the data mines here, and I will leave links to all of this stuff again down in the description below so you can go and read it all yourself, that they did not change the hull armor. In fact, they probably nerfed it more than they buffed it. So, Challenger's hull armor is still trash, and I can already hear people saying that, referring to one of the documents that they listed as their sources, that the Challenger's hull armor should be like 500mm against kinetic. That's not true. That was a proposed change to upcoming variants of the Challenger, which were never built or put into service. So, again, your hull armor is still trash like it has always been, but your turret armor is now substantially better, meaning that you can actually play the vehicle as it was meant to be played. Now, I know this question is going to come up in the comment section, but, so, with all these changes, Miles, how has your opinion changed on the Challenger? Overall, it hasn't. However, I would say that I am far more willing to play this vehicle now. I will definitely be able to give it a second shot. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a lot of play timing yesterday. I was only able to get 1 or 2 games, and they weren't all that great. Luckily, Scavenger here from Beehive had played a bunch of games right off the bat as soon as the update dropped, and so he had like 3 or 4 replays that he could shoot my way. So thank you, Scavenger, for providing these replays so I can actually make the commentary within a reasonable amount of time. So again, my overall opinions on Challenger are that it's still one of the weakest of the lot when it comes to Tier 6 MBTs. However, if you really enjoyed the playstyle regarding Chieftain, then you will like Challenger. It is an overall upgrade to a Chieftain, however, you should play it as such. The Challenger is nothing more than an overhyped Chieftain with a 1200 horsepower engine, as opposed to your very, very weak Leyland L60 engine on the Chieftains. You also get much better ammunition, and the gun on both the Chieftains and the Challengers is now substantially more accurate. So, you have those going for you. If you really enjoyed that playstyle, then I imagine you'll probably have some success at Tier 6. But do keep in mind that there are far better vehicles all around than Challenger. So, keep that in mind if you're making your choice between all of these vehicles. Other changes regarding other vehicles, T64B. T64B got a substantial series of buffs this last patch, mostly regarding to its upper front plate and its turret armor. Somebody put a Reddit post up, and I will leave a link to that if I can find it, that did like a quick rundown. I forget your name, sir, I am very sorry. That did a quick rundown of the buffs and how it really affects the T64B. And basically what he came up with was, the whole armor buffs did really nothing overall. The guns that could penetrate you before will still lull pen you. However, the turret armor buffs are very different. The turret armor buffs mean that the tanks that could penetrate you all the time in the turret beforehand now really, really struggle to do so, especially at longer ranges. And he also recommends turning your turret about 10 or 12 degrees to the side, except when you're facing JM33 and the OFLG-1 ammo from the French. With the exception of those two, if you're facing an M1 Abrams or a Leopard 2, turning your turret off to the side will only show them the most, the strongest armor on your turret, and that is more than enough to stop pretty much anything that gets fired at you. So, if you've always had an issue with the T-64B's turret armor, then it got substantially better as of this last patch yesterday. Now, this person, I went and found it and looked it up, and this user is named Kinbu2131. Thank you, Kinbu, for allowing me to use this. And I will leave a link to your post, you know, on Reddit, so enjoy the free karma. Kinbu also makes note here that despite these armor buffs to T-64, it does not mean that armor is still relevant at top tier. He makes note that the T-64B still lacks the mobility to keep up with a lot of the other NATO vehicles. And while Challenger is still more mobile than the T-64B, I would still probably argue that the T-64B is a better overall vehicle than Challenger. Now, that doesn't mean, however, that Challenger is a trash tank like it used to be. It's not as good as the other MBTs. I would still say that an M1 Abrams, a Type 90, a Leopard 2A4, even the AMX-40, I would argue all of those vehicles are still better than Challenger. However, again, if you really enjoy that playstyle of sitting hull down at long range and picking people off, and you like being a sniper, the Challenger one is not a bad option. I will leave a link down below to all of the relevant data regarding this change, and if I can find the dev post or the datamine post of the dev server right before the patch went live, I will leave a link down to that below, and that will give you guys a better idea of the delta dispersion across all of the guns that were buffed. So, thank you guys for listening. This has been Many Miles Away. I realize I have been very, very skimpy on content over the last couple of weeks, and that is because I am working hard on both my German class and the Unicorn review and the upcoming gun tank project, which I'm hoping to have finished and uploaded or pre-uploaded by the time I leave for Germany. Odds are those will probably release while I am in Germany to keep you guys mulled over for some real content. So expect that in the near future, about midway through August. If you guys are not aware already, I will be at Gamescom 2018 in Cologne, Germany with Gaijin Entertainment, and I will be there Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday through Thursday is specifically with Gaijin. Friday will be kind of a free day, and I'll be walking around. I will probably post where I'll be at, and so on. So, I hope to meet many of you guys there. If you aren't going to make it there, I totally understand. And please just share the videos and give them a like down below. So, without further ado, this has been Many Miles Away. Keep your tracks checked, keep your binders in place, keep around on the tube, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Have a good one.